Hi, I'm Kaja.
And I'm Joanna.
And this is Starlit Citadel Reviews.
XCOM, the board game, is a challenging cooperative science fiction game from Eric Lang and Fantasy Flight Games.
In XCOM, players work together to save the world from an alien invasion. It supports 1 to 4 players and lasts around an hour.
Players begin XCOM by setting up the board. Each player chooses a role and collects its reference, asset, and reserve cards. Units are placed in each reserve, and 2 interceptors and 1 soldier of each type go in the recruitment pool. The threat and base damage tokens go on their tracks.
The credits and success tokens are placed near the board, along with the tech, crisis, and mission decks. Players choose an invasion plan and start the app, and then set up the enemy deck, the HQ and its related asset card, and the starting panic levels according to its instructions. Then the game begins.
Each round of XCOM has 2 phases, the timed phase and the resolution phase. During the timed phase, the app presents actions that the players must complete in a certain time limit. The central officer announces these actions. If the players run out of time on a blue XCOM action, then they must immediately move on to the next action. If they run out of time on a red alien action, then they will get extra time to complete it, but that time will be subtracted from the time they get for their next action.
At the start of the timed phase, the new technology available action lets the chief scientist draw up to a hand of 6 cards. Next, the budget is announced, and the commander collects the number of credits that are listed. All of the remaining actions are going to arrive in random order.
The central officer will add UFOs to the board when they are detected, and deploy satellites from their reserve to orbit spaces, to a maximum of 3.
The chief scientist will assign research to each of the 3 labs. They place 1 of the tech cards from their hand in the lab indicated by the app, and add from 1 to 3 scientists from their reserve.
The squad leader chooses a mission by drawing 2 mission cards, picking 1, and putting it on the board. They add 1 face-down enemy card to each blue enemy task slot on the mission. If an enemy attacks the base, they add 1 face-up enemy card to the board.
They may deploy a squad to the mission by moving up to 4 soldiers from their reserves to the mission card, after turning any enemy cards face up. If they need to defend the base, then they can move any number of soldiers from the reserves to the board.
The commander prepares crises by drawing 2 crisis cards and placing 1 in the crisis pool. They deploy interceptors from their reserve to the map to a maximum of 3 per continent. They may also get more money from the emergency funding available action.
Many asset and tech cards can be used at any time during the timed phase by paying the cost listed in bold on the card. Players will get 1 final chance to use these cards at the end of the timed phase.
In the resolution phase, the commander counts the number of scientists, satellites, soldiers, and interceptors on the board. Each costs 1 credit, and they must fit in the budget. If there are more units on the board than can be paid for, increase the panic level of the most panicked continent by 1 for every unfunded unit. Unspent credits can be used to build interceptors or soldiers from the recruitment pool for 1 credit each.
Next, the crisis cards in the pool are resolved in order. Then the players take turns resolving tasks. So for each one, they roll the red alien die, along with a number of blue XCOM dice that corresponds to the number of units that have been assigned to that task. Each success counts towards completing the task, and you can bank successes from round to round. Now, if the result on the alien die is equal to or less than the current threat level, it counts as a loss. You can roll the dice multiple times for each task, but the threat level will increase by 1 for each roll. The threat level is reset back to 1 at the start of each new task.
The chief scientist must roll a number of successes equal to the number in the top left of a tech card in order to research it. A researched tech is given to its corresponding player and becomes available for use. A loss causes all scientists assigned to a task to become exhausted.
The central officer eliminates one UFO from orbit with each success. A loss exhausts all of their orbiting satellites. For every UFO remaining in orbit, the least panicked continent increases its panic by 1. The commander rolls separately to defend each continent, eliminating UFOs with each success and losing all interceptors in a location on a loss. Each remaining UFO increases its continent's panic by 1.
Each enemy in the base is a task, and the squad leader may resolve them in any order. However, the threat meter is not reset between tasks. Soldiers can only be assigned to enemies with at least one matching skill icon. If you match a yellow-bordered specialized skill icon, then you get an extra die.
An enemy is defeated by successes equal to its health, and a loss kills all of the soldiers assigned to that enemy. Defeated enemies are given to the chief scientist and can be spent later to boost research. Every enemy remaining in the base advances its damage track by 1, and reaching a red space on that track triggers the damage effect on the invasion plan card.
Mission tasks are resolved from left to right. Non-enemy tasks require a single success, and the threat track does not reset between tasks. A loss kills all soldiers assigned to that task and sends them to the recruitment pool. Resolving all 3 tasks on a mission gives the players the rewards listed in the upper right of the card.
Players can use assets and tech throughout the resolution phase to assist with tasks. At the end of the round, all exhausted cards are turned right side up, and exhausted tokens in the reserve are flipped. Then, units return to their reserves, except for any soldiers assigned to a mission. And the next round begins.
The players win by completing the final mission on the back of the invasion plan card after it has been announced by the app. The players lose if the base is destroyed, or if 2 continents make it to the end of the panic track.
I really enjoyed playing XCOM. I was a pretty big fan of the video game, and I was really happy to see that the board game maintains the sense of fear and tension and stress and kind of racing to keep up with variables you can't control that was so incredibly compelling in the video game. And one of the ways in which it does that most strongly is through the app. The app is great, you guys. Not only is it technically really well designed, I've had a chance to use it on 4 different platforms and it ran seamlessly on each one of those. It's clear, it provides instructions well, and it's very easy to navigate. But the thing that's most interesting about it is just how much it contributes to the atmosphere and the pacing of the game. There are some nice animations on it, there's some neat ominous music, but mostly what it does is it sets the tone. Especially in the timed phase where you've constantly got terrifying things popping up, it gives the game this wonderful sense of urgency that actually carries over into the other phases. The resolution phase isn't timed. If you wanted to, you could take like half an hour resolving a half dozen tasks just to give yourself a little bit of a breather after the tension of the timed phase. But I find that the timed phase has done such a good job of setting this atmosphere of urgency that everybody just blasts through the tasks as quickly as possible and races and goes, because the app has instilled this really compelling sense of mounting panic. It's awesome, and it means that the game ends up clocking in at a little over an hour, which is pretty impressive for a challenging co-op game. Another thing I love about the app is how dynamically it can manage the game state. You have to input a couple of values at the end of each round. You tell it which continents are panicked, whether there's UFOs in orbit, that kind of thing. And then the app will change the information it gives you based on those things. So if you screwed things up in earlier rounds, not only is there more stuff on the board for you to deal with, but the app is going to be responding to that and making things harder for you. And some of the ways in which it does that are some really neat surprises. Another thing that contributes a ton to the atmosphere of this game is that push your luck dice mechanic that governs how you resolve tasks. It's really simple. It does, add a large element of randomness to the game, which is not everybody's bag, but it's so perfect for this type of game because it's really hard to succeed on a task. If you don't have any way of assisting the rolls, if you're just straight rolling, your odds of success are significantly less than 50%. So you're always pretty much going to find yourself rolling more than once. And that means making things worse for yourself in the long run, because you're going to exhaust your scientists or you're going to lose your interceptors once you inevitably roll a loss. It really makes this game feel like a sort of top-down war game where you don't get to control your individual squaddies, you don't have really tight control over what happens on the battlefield. You just do your best to manage the risks, to plan appropriately for a mission, and then you kind of send people out and you see what happens. There's never a sense of control, and it's really compelling and really interesting. My one complaint about the app, and this might be kind of specific to being a game reviewer who has to write scripts, is that it replaced the rulebook. Designers, please don't do this. There's a really good tutorial built into the app. Like, it does a great job of walking you through the steps and introducing you to the game. And there is a rules reference index so that you can look up individual things really well. But there's no single place anywhere where the rules are comprehensively laid out as a whole. And that can be very difficult, certainly if you're trying to write a gameplay summary. But for a lot of players, they like having an idea of the general shape of the game and what they can expect to happen, even if there is a step-by-step tutorial. And I just feel that it makes the game a little bit harder to learn and was not a necessary omission. The final concern that I do have about this game is that it is so much stronger, or at least more user-friendly, with 4 players. Every single one of the 4 roles in the game has to be filled every time you play. So if you've got fewer than 4 players, you're going to have at least 1 player doing double duty. And because of how quickly things come in the timed phase, because of the fact that the roles are quite specialized and that there's no overlap whatsoever between what they do, that's really going to increase how much information you have to manage and is going to drastically increase the challenge level of the game. It's something that I would not recommend if there are beginners in the group, but it could be a nice challenge for a group of very, very experienced gamers.
So another thing you should probably keep in mind if you're going to be playing or purchasing XCOM is that it is very, very difficult. This is a very challenging cooperative game. Now, cooperative games, in my opinion, should be challenging. You've got everybody at the table working towards the same objective, so we've got extra brain power, all working towards the same thing, and so it should be a challenging game. It should feel like a victory when you win. This game, however, takes that a step further, especially if you play it with less than 4 players. As Kaja was saying, there's a lot to keep track of here. This is a very difficult game, often because of the randomness, so you don't know what's going to happen next and you have to react quickly in that timed phase to things that are coming up. If you have less than 4 players at the table, you have a lot to keep track of, and you have to be really on top of the rules, really snappy at it. I actually played this game as a solo game, just for the heck of it, and it was really, really hard. I had so much to keep track of. It was still fun, but I lost really fast because there was just so much for me to do. If I'd known the game really well, if I'd really been intimate with the rules, then quite possibly it would have been a nice challenge for me. And if I'd succeeded, then it would have been an amazing victory. But know going into this game that this is not an easy win. You're going to lose a few times before you win anything. That being said, I thought this game was great. This is definitely in my wheelhouse. I love the genre, I love the theme, I love challenging cooperative games. This is definitely the kind of game that I like to play, so I enjoyed it quite a bit. That randomness that makes it difficult also makes it incredibly replayable. So you've got a lot of stuff in this game, and there's a lot of things that could be happening, and there's no way to anticipate what's going to happen next, and that makes it a game that you can play over and over and over again without getting bored, which is fantastic. Another great thing about this game, especially for it being a cooperative game, is that all the rules in the game are not only all needed, but they're all very specific, and they're all, they all have a lot to do. So you've all got a lot of cards in front of you, you all got actions that you have to take specifically. So it's not like you're the one player at the board who gets the crappy roll that doesn't have enough to do and you're bored. That never happens in this game. Everybody has a lot to do. So I like the way it's designed in that way. Everybody's gonna feel really involved. If you win or if you lose, it's gonna feel like a team did that. It wasn't just one person who just sort of took control and ran off with the game. Everybody's involved here and everybody has really specific things to do. So if you like this kind of genre, if you like cooperative games, I definitely recommend giving this one a try. It's not a huge epic. It actually plays in a relatively short period of time because of that nice, quick, thematic anxiety that's introduced by the app. So yeah, for sure, try this game out. I think you'll like it if you're into cooperative gaming.
I don't know about you, but I want to believe.